Shalom, Yasharallah. This your brother Dawada, coming back at you with this here truth again. First to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone that taught us this truth and that we will. And salutation and much love for you, Akim, pushing this truth and sincerity over the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. So I want to tell you, this is going to be a quick little lesson, Lord will. But, this is more or less like a milk lesson, for basically, people first coming into this here truth, and things like that. They may get confused with the terminologies and the words that we use and how some things can seem a little confusing. All right. A lot of people like to talk down on us or whatever, whatnot, and say, oh, well, we tell you that the so-called white man is the devil. All right. But then sometimes, if you listen to us clearly, which I'll grab the scripture as well, talking about, basically Israel is going to look like any and everybody. Sometimes we see people, a prime example, when you see us at camp, we have an image, right? A couple images, right? If you know who Blake Griffin, the basketball player, is, all right, if you look at his father, all right, his father is a very dark-skinned man, all right? He's a so-called Haitian, a Levite, right? Now, Blake Griffin's mother, she appears to look like an Edomite, all right? Like a so-called white woman, right? Now, you see what Blake Griffin looks like, he look like he's so-called mixed, right? Now, Blake Griffin has a child with another woman that looks like basically this woman here on the screen, like a so-called white woman as well, right? Now, their child, all right, is a little boy, but he pretty much looks exactly like this here so-called white woman on the screen here as well, all right? Blonde hair, and I don't know what color eyes, but blonde hair, white-looking skin or whatever, whatnot, And sometimes you'll hear us say certain things that if you listen kind of hard, may seem, quote-unquote, like a contradiction. But in reality, it's not. If you've been in this here truth for a long time, we know, amongst us, we know to try the spirit by the spirit. All right. We're not going around pointing people out because, oh, you look like this woman on the screen. You're an Edomite, or you black like you look so-called black like Barack Obama. You're an Israelite. It's a way deeper than that. This is why we say, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, are the Israelites, But nevertheless, according to the scriptures, we was going to be spread throughout the four corners of the earth. So we're not going to all look the same. All right. We've been mixing and mingling or whatever, whatnot. So this is why we try the spirit by the spirit. And even, hell, you look at a lot of our camps, some of our camps, you have these so-called white looking people in these camps. And people are like, how the hell you talking about the so-called white man and the devil? But the brother right beside your ass is a so-called white man. All right. But this is the stumbling block that a lot of our new coming people coming into this, they stumble over these things. All right. And on the flip side, you have the other side of these people that come into this so-called, not the so-called knowledge, because they're not really into this really like that. But they'll say, oh, all 12 tribes are the so-called black people. All right. Well, we don't tell you that you're of the children of Israel because of what your skin color looks like. It don't matter what the hell your skin color look like, man. All right. The tribe of Judah, which is the so-called black people, right? They could all, let's just say they all had so-called white colored skin. Don't mean that they not the Israelites, all right? And we're not advocating that, oh, Edomites can make it or nothing like that, all right? This here lesson is based off of the skin color or based off of destroying that stumbling block of people looking at each other by their skin color, all right? It's the spirit in you. It's based off of your father and who your father is, all right? So I'm going to play this here little video real quick, and we're going to grab some scriptures. But as you're looking at this here situation here, all right, asking in your mind, is this a so-called white woman, all right? She looks like a so-called white woman. A lot of our people, especially a lot of our sisters may see a so-called black man walking around with this here woman right here. Why he with that white bitch? How you talking about you like this and that, but you with this here white woman, all right? But again, you have to understand the spirit within these people, man. For the most part, Jake ain't really going to get along with Edomites like that, man. It's just going to be something in their spirit like that, man. All right? So, again, it don't matter what they look like on the outside. You had that growing up in the hood. You had that one white boy that fit in so perfect with the rest of the hood. Y'all forgot that this nigga was so-called white. All right? You can't hide who you are in the spirit, man. The scriptures say the spirit of the prophets is subject unto the prophets, all right? And the same with the wicked. The wicked going to always keep coming back as the wicked. The righteous going to keep coming back as the righteous, man, all right? So let me play this here video real quick.
You know what's confusing? My existence. Now, hear me out. Now, this is my brother. Makes sense. We're both white.
Boom. You see? Look like so-called white people. Now, even this quote-unquote, I'm going to call her Edomite for this part of the blessing. But even the Edomite can sit here and even though she's not Edomite, but she can basically tell that something is not right with this, all right? But then you have some of our people that look like me that claim they know everything. Oh, all Israelites are all black because their skin color is all black. Or this person is a Edomite because their skin color is white, But it's deeper than that.
Blonde hair, whatever, what's the big deal? Now this is my mom. It's like, okay, well, she's brown hair, recessive genes. It's still possible. However, this is my dad. So why am I white? Here's a family photo from 2007 in case you don't believe me. There's little me. Yes, my dad is full black. So can someone please explain to me the Punnett square? Because from my understanding, I should not look like this. Again, why?
So she's saying, look, because her dad is full black, her mother has dark colored hair and everything like that. How the hell did she come out with the blonde hair and whatever, whatnot? And her brother as well, too. But the sister looks a little different than them. All right. Now, you're just looking at these people genetically and things like that, man. All right. So your skin color don't matter about none of these things, man. All right. And basically the reasons that we have these different skin colors and things like that was because why? You had Esau was the only person that came, the actual Esau himself was the only person that actually came out looking a little different. That's why they called his ass wasted away as he. That's what Esau means, because he was lacking skin pigmentation. But if you follow along with Esau, I believe that's Genesis 35. All right, it goes into who the hell he wound up marrying and everything like that, which he took basically Hamite wives, right? So one so-called white man, right, got with basically folks that had dark skin color, right? Then they would wind up mixing it, and throughout time and everything like that, you have all these different situations. So you really go from light to dark, right? But nevertheless, you do have these people who don't have so-called quote-unquote pigmentation, all right?
Why am I white? And not only white at that, why am I blonde too? Because that makes no sense. You know how confusing it is when I have to fill out paperwork and there's no other option for the race or ethnicity part? I can't put that I'm black or African American because they'll think that's some sick joke. But when I put white, I feel like I'm lying.
All right, so that was basically the video right there. Give me a second. So let me grab this first. We're going to get into the scriptures now, basically, you know, just to break this here down. You have to understand just on quote-unquote layman's terms, all right? First and foremost, you know, like the scripture say, the spirit of the prophets is subject unto the prophets, all right? The Israelites are going to still be the Israelites no matter what they look like on the outside, all right? This is Deuteronomy 28 and verse 64. Well, let me go up to 15 first. Deuteronomy 28 and 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of Yahweh thy power to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. All right. And so what you know the story. We didn't want to keep in the commandments. So then these curses fell upon us. Right. Now, one of the curses I wanted to look at is verse 64. Deuteronomy 28 and 64. And Yahweh shall scatter thee among all people. Right. So if you're going to be scattered amongst all people, right, from one end of the earth even unto the other, and there thou shalt serve other gods which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, even wood and stone. All right. So if we was going to be scattered amongst all people, we was going to be picking up things from all people, just in the smallest layman terms, right? If you your family line go back to a bunch of people in New York, you got that heavy New York accent or whatever, whatnot. But as a child, you know, you was born maybe at the year 1 year old. Y'all moved down to the south, right? Now, all of a sudden, you get older, you and your parents, y'all gonna have different, quote-unquote, not dialects, accents. One of y'all, your parents are gonna be sounding like New Yorkers. The people, your children are gonna want to sound like people from the South, because why? You're around these people, so you're picking up things around these people. How much more would, you already see what goes on, like, especially with the military. When the military men go overseas or whatever, whatnot, they wind up sleeping with those women over there, and sometimes having babies with those women over there, because those are the people that are around them or whatever, whatnot, right? So if we was gonna be scattered into the four corners of the earth, amongst all people, right? Let me grab this other precept as well. Acts chapter 2 and verse, let me start at verse 5. It says, and there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews or Israelites, devout men out of every nation under heaven, right? So this isn't saying that Israelites are all the different nations. No, we were scattered into all different nations, all right? We weren't all living in Jerusalem or in Israel at that point in time, but through for the time of the Passover, all the men were supposed to come back to Jerusalem, more or less to say, you know. So it's basically like a family reunion, you know. Your whole lineage, y'all was all born, let's say, in Georgia. Y'all all got older. Your mama had like 10 kids, let's just say, right? And they moved to 10 different states. Now it's family reunion time, and now y'all all coming from these different states. And again, like I use the example of these accents, even though your mom had all 10 of y'all, and y'all was up in New York or whatever, whatnot, y'all got that New York accent. Now that y'all all had kids or whatever, whatnot, y'all having a family reunion. You coming back home from the family reunion, or whatever, whatnot. Now you got some people with a New York accent, some with a Southern accent. Some of them was born over in China speaking Chinese. Some, born in Mexico speaking Spanish or whatever, whatnot. But guess what? This is all the same family, no matter what type of quote unquote language or accent that they use. And again, I'm not saying based off the accents. I'm just giving you an example to where you can see how, well, yes, the same people, they just picked up other things along with it. It don't change who the hell they are depending on the language that they speak, right? So here we're talking about Israelites that had then been scattered and moved to other places other than the land of Israel that were coming back to Israel, right? Let me jump down again. Let me read from verse 8. Now, again, you got to remember, these are all Israelites coming to Jerusalem for basically the Passover, right? And how hear we every man in our own tongue when we were born, Parthians, Medes, Elamites, and dwellers in Mesopotamia and Judea, Cappadocia, Pontus, Asia, Pargaria, Pamphylia, Egypt, and in parts of Libya and Cyrene, and strangers of Rome, Jews and proselytes, Cretes and Arabians, we do hear them speak in our tongues the wonderful works of the Most High. So again, just imagine that this is like your family, your mom and your dad, they done had 10 kids, right? And you and all your brothers and sisters that moved all over the whole globe. Some of y'all live in China, Mexico, Japan, Saudi Arabia, Africa, Russia, down south, up north. Now y'all coming to this family reunion, all right? Now y'all all got a different accent, maybe speak different languages, dress a little different, eat a little different, used to a little different shit or whatever, whatnot. But guess what? Y'all all family. Y'all all got the same DNA. Y'all was all pretty much, your mothers and fathers was all born in the same household in the same state. But then as y'all got older, y'all moved apart. Don't change that y'all family or whatever, whatnot. And wherever you have your kids at, it don't matter where the fuck you have your kids at because of the fact of you still are who you are. Don't matter where you come from, right? As far as the land mass you was born on, right? So these were all Israelites, all right? But then you could say by citizens, right? I think it was Paul who said they asked him if he was that Egyptian or whatever, whatnot, and in another part, he said that he was basically a Roman citizen, right? He was a Roman, right? So in layman's terms, he was a Roman. But some people would say, oh, the Edomites was Romans or whatever, whatnot. He was a Roman. But like, no, not really. Just like how me personally today, in layman's term, I can say, oh, I'm an American, right? Well, we know that nowadays not the real Americans, but the Americans that they claim today are basically these Edomites. I'm not saying I'm an Edomite, all right? I was just a citizen of America. I'm a so-called black person here in America, or like quote unquote Mexicans, right? You be like, oh, you Mexican, that's your so-called quote unquote race, but you could be born in America, right? Like, well, no, I'm American, but I'm quote unquote Mexican still, right? That's your so-called not religion, your so-called race or whatever, whatnot, So these people here, these Parthians and these Medes, these Elamites, these are not real Elamites from Elam. These are Israelites that lived in the land of Elam. All right, so they're Elamites by citizenship. So guess what? They would probably be taking on some of their customs. Is probably they dress the same way. They may have been born over there, so that's their primary language, their first language that they spoke, or a different language that they speak. All right, the foods that they eat might be a little different or whatever, whatnot, because they was from these other places. All right, hell, let me finish this point first, and then let me go back, because this is another stumbling block. Revelation 7 and 9. It says, and after this I beheld and lo, a great multitude. Let me go up. Revelation 7 and 4. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. So this 144,000 is 12,000 out of the 12 tribes, right? But then when you get down to verse 9, these Christians like to say, oh, this is where the Gentiles come in, the rest of the other nations. Well, no, this is not talking about that, right? Verse 9, after this I beheld and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. So the layman Christian would say, oh, these are all the other nations and so on and so forth. Well, we just read in the book of Acts about how Israelites, all right, first of all, in Deuteronomy 28, we would be scattered into the four corners of the earth. In Acts, we just read about how Israelites were coming back to Jerusalem, all right, but they were citizens of other places. So if you was to call them by their citizen or their national, based off their quote unquote their citizenship, all right, you'd be like, well, again, using an example, quote unquote Mexicans, or let's just say Chinese people that was born here in America. They'd be like, no, I'm an American citizen, blah, blah, blah. But clearly this nigga is Chinese, right? Just the same thing that's going on right here. These are clearly Israelites, but they were just scattered into the four corners of the earth. So no matter the language they speak, the dialect, the clothes they wear, the customs they have or whatever, whatnot, they all Israelites, man. All right. Just like here in America, we was brought up eating pork and worshiping Christianity, which that ain't our real Israelite heritage. We were supposed to be against those things. But guess what? We had to mingle with these other people, right? What's that precept I was about to grab? I'll grab this instead. It's in the book of, where is it? Okay, it's the book of Ezra, chapter 9. Well, I could read all the way down to, I guess, 7. Let me start at the top. Ezra 9 and 1. And when these things, now you have to understand, this is all built off of what? Deuteronomy 24 and verse 64. How we were, Deuteronomy 28 and verse 64, of how we would be scattered into the four corners of the earth, right? Now, and then this is what technically happens even to this same day, man. All right. And just like in that video we watched, she was asking, how the hell do I look like this when my father is an actual black man? You know, she probably knows what her grandparents look like. They probably both so-called black people or whatever, whatnot, and so on and so forth, you know. But you when you see the children or whatever, whatnot, if you was just to see this woman, or like a lot of our sisters, if she was to see this woman with a so-called black man, why he with this white bitch? Not knowing that this is actually a so-called black woman right here, but she just happened to look like this shit, right? Ezra 9 and 1. Again, go look at Blake Griffin, his father, then look at Blake Griffin's son. All right, from the Blake Griffin's son and his grandfather look completely different. One of them is a very dark black, so-called black man, so-called Haitian, whereas his son looked like Macaulay Culkin. But when you look at the male line seed that's going all the way down, all right, let me grab that first. Numbers chapter 1. And verse 18. Numbers 1 and 18. And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families. Let me see what this word pedigree means. I think it goes into lineage or something. Come on now. Oh man, I know we didn't freeze. But nevertheless, you know, going into that word, here we go. All right, so the definition that we want to look at here is, they all kind of go into the same thing, but here it says to show lineage, all right, to bear, to beget, and then down here it says declare pedigree to be a son of, right? So basically this is who you're the son of. This is, let me read it back in context, all right? It says they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the name from 20 years old and upward by the poll. So you would know your lineage or your family line based off of who your father is. All right. Now, in simple layman's term, right, the male carries the sperm, which where the sperm go back to, well, seed go back to the word sperma, which is what you have. So women say, oh, we can have children without men or whatever, whatnot. We create life and everything else. No, you don't create life. All right. If anything, you how do I say, you nourish. It's like, give me a second. If anything, you so-called quote unquote nourish life. All right. And an example of these things are, you have an apple, or an apple seed, and you have the dirt. The woman is more or less like the dirt. You know, the Most High uses this analogy a lot as far as like more or less the agrarian society, farming and things like that, sowing seed and things like that. You reap what you sow. This is why you have all these analogies like that, right? So the woman will be basically considered the dirt, whereas the man will be considered the seed, right? So you can take a seed and put it anywhere in any kind of dirt. You're still going to get the same fruit where that seed came from. So for an example, you can have a Florida orange, right? From a tree, orange tree in Florida, right? You take that seed and you plant it in the ground, you're going to get what? Florida oranges, right? You can take that same seed and go plant it in California. You'll be like, oh, well, we got California oranges. You know, some of the properties and things like that may be a little different. The orange may get a little bigger, a little smaller. The color might be a little different, maybe a little sweeter or a little more bitter or whatever, whatnot. You're going to have different characteristics in it or whatever, whatnot. But guess what? At the end of the day, you'll never put an orange seed in the ground and get apples, okay? The dirt is not going to change up the, how do I say, the full DNA structure as far as what the hell it is. You know, you're never going to put a orange seed in the ground and get a watermelon or nothing like that. Now, you may get different traits and things like that from it, but you're not going to ever change whatever it is. So the same way with a man planting his seed inside the woman, all right, a so-called black man can plant his seed in any woman that there is on the planet Earth, and it's still going to be a so-called black child or an Israelite child. No matter what they look like on the outside. Again, some of the properties may change. You may not look like a so-called black person again, or like that woman we just watched in that video. All right, that her father planted his seed inside of a so-called white-looking woman or whatever, whatnot. But guess what? It's still his seed. You know, if she's the orange, or if he has the orange seed and he put it inside the girl mama dirt or whatever, whatnot, it's still coming out as an orange. Even though the orange now looks a little different because you put it in a different soil on a different place of the earth. And now it's getting more or less different type of sunlight, different type of watering, different type of nutrients in the soil. It may look a little different, but it's still going to be an orange, man. All right. So let me read this again. And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the name, from 20 years upwards by their polls. So, hey, you are who your father is, man. All right. So let me go back to Ezra 9:1. And when these things were done, the princes came to me, saying, the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the land. So again, you have to understand that we were scattered into the, in the different nations at this point. You know, now we're in the four corners of the earth. But nevertheless, if you're not around all your people, you know what I'm saying? Who else you gonna have to mingle with? You know, if you was in a city or a town where only so-called black people, that's who you gonna mingle with. Or if you was the one so-called white person in a town full of all black people, guess who you gonna mingle with? All right, because you ain't got no other choices or no options, right? So for our people that were scattered into these other places, it says, now when these things were done, the princes came to me, saying, the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the land and do according to their abominations. Just like here in America, we was all brought up and brainwashed to celebrate Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Father's Day. Even though these ain't our holidays, but these were the people around us, so we started picking up their customs, right? It don't mean it's our holiday. Just like you niggas celebrate, you Northern Kingdom, you celebrate Thanksgiving, all right, which is the celebration of the genocide of your people, your tribes, right? You so-called Negroes, you celebrate 4th of July when that holiday had nothing to do with you. You know, they celebrating their freedom, all right, from their so-called captivity under the rulership of the King of England or whatever, whatnot. But in reality, you know, we all free and equal and independent and so on and so forth. We all have the right to happiness and the pursuit of happiness and so on and so forth, all right? But they weren't talking about your ass. That was in 1776, and then I believe it was like 1855 or something like that when they had the so-called Emancipation Proclamation. So your ass was still a slave at that point in time. But see, you've been brought up into this here society believing that your ass is an American and not a goddamn slave of these Americans. So you believe that the 4th of July is you celebrating your independence. You didn't have no independence at that point in time, but this is how you was brainwashed, right? So we didn't separate from these people here. We don't realize these are our enemies. At a time like now where Babylon the Great is being judged, these Edomites is being judged, a lot of our people are sad and everything. America's going down the drain. Like, no, nigga, they shit is going down the drain. They ship is sinking. It ain't your ship, man. All right, stop saying that we fucked up out here. Just like Jake used to do back in the slave days. If the slave master was sick, Jake would say, is we sick, boss? We sick today. No, boss is sick. You ain't sick. Oh, our house burned. It ain't your house. It's his house is burning down, man. All right. So it says, the people of Israel, the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the land and do according to their abominations. Even the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites. All right, so they don't separate themselves, right? For they have taken of their daughters for themselves. So we're talking about the men taking these heathens' daughters. Again, going back, you took your apple seeds that you done got, or orange seeds from Florida that you had, and moved to different states and started throwing those seeds in different soil around the whole globe. All right, now, if any sane person in their mind think that they're going to spread some orange seeds that they got from Florida around the globe, and depending on whatever soil you're going to get a different fruit. Shit, hopefully we get watermelon out this, or hopefully we get apples out of this. Your ass is retarded, man. All right, you clearly can't see beneath the surface of things. And this is why we say the things that we say sometimes, or you'll see a so-called white person in the camp or whatever, whatnot, and people flip out and flip their shit. And they're like, oh, this is that, blah, 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 blah. Or the so-called Latinos, or they ain't a part of the tribes because they ain't so-called black. But they under the same curses. You see that they under the same curses. We know that we Israelites, not because we got black skin. We know the Israelites according to the prophecies and the curses that will befall us, man. All right, no matter what your skin color look like, man. You got Edomites that's going under the same curses, doing the same shit that we got going on, or whatever, whatnot. They a bunch of jakes, man. All right. It says, for they have taken of their daughters for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy seed, there we go again, you done took these orange seeds and moved around the whole globe, spreading these seeds around there. They still gonna be oranges no matter what the fuck you do, right? They may just look a little different here and there, but at the end of the day, it's still an orange. You're not gonna ever put that in the ground and get a damn apple. So an Israelite is never gonna plant his seed nowhere and get an Edomite. An Edomite ain't gonna never plant his seed anywhere else and get an Israelite or a Hamite. And vice, and so on and so forth. Hamites ain't gonna never be able to put their seeds in these Moabites and get Moabites. They're gonna always be Hamites, no matter what they look like, man. All right. It says, for they have taken of their daughters for themselves and for their sons, so that the holy seed have mingled themselves with the people of those lands. Yea, the hand of the princes and the rulers have been chief in this trespass. So hey, just like Blake Griffin or this here white woman confused about why she looked like this or whatever, whatnot, and so on and so forth. Let me keep reading. And when I heard these things, I rent my garment and my mantle and plucked off the hair of my head and my beard and sat down astonished. Then were assembled unto me everyone that trembled at the word of the Most High of Israel, because of the transgression of those that had been carried away. And I sat astonished until the evening sacrifice. And at the evening sacrifice, I rose up from my heaviness, and having rent my garment and my mantle, I fell upon my knees and spread my hands unto Yahweh my power, and said, O my power, I am ashamed, and blushed to lift up my face to thee, my power, for our iniquities are increased over our head, and our trespasses grown up unto the heavens. It says, since the days of our fathers have we been in great trespass, and to this day for our iniquities have we, our kings and our priests have been delivered into the hand of the kings of the lands, and to the sword, and to captivity, and to the spoil. Right? Because we started going off, we forgot about the law, statutes, commandments that was given unto us to separate us from the rest of the world, to make us a holy people, a separate people above all the people on the face of the earth. We started mingling with these heathen and started partaking in what they low-level shit look like. So now, you're supposed to be the best of the best, but you out here looking like a rookie down here, man. All right, you out here looking all ashamed when you're supposed to be the big dog on the block, man. All right. It says, and to confusion of face as it is to this day. All right, so look, like I just explained, we didn't know who we were. We didn't know that we weren't supposed to be doing certain things or whatever, whatnot. I can say for myself, when I was younger, I used to think how when I found out about these the Nation of Islam and that type of stuff, because I got some relatives that's into that, and I found out they ain't eat pork and everything like that. I was a little kid. I was like, oh shit, that's cool how they a little different. They got their own little so on and so forth. Even though these are my blood relatives and everything, that they just happen to convert over to this. I just thought that was kind of cool that they had something that made them stand out, because we was all the same. We all ate this and that, but when it came time for breakfast, when they was around or whatever, whatnot, they had their own different breakfast. They didn't eat bacon and all the sausage and shit like we ate. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool or whatever, whatnot, because they're separated, right? But lo and behold, we all was supposed to be separated, following after the law, statutes, commandments, but we decided to do what the heathens do, man. All right, so you can't quite recognize us as standing out and being that holy people, man. So we don't really know that we're the Israelites, not really, we talk about the so-called Jewish people and how they have this and how they have that and how cool that they are and how God loved them and this and that, not realizing that that's us, because while we didn't cleave so much into these heathen, we start to think of ourselves as the damn heathens, man. All right, well, that's why we say, oh, that's the white man's book. That's this and that. No, this is your stuff, man. But you don't even realize that, because you so, how do I say, brainwashed by this here society and the societies that you've mingled yourselves with, man. All right, that you don't really know who you are. Right? It says, and to confusion of face as it is to this day. So you have a lot of our people that's walking around calling themselves Christians, Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans, Puerto Ricans, Mexicans. We try to tell them that they Israelites, like, oh, I ain't with all of that, blah, blah, blah. Y'all just think y'all Israelites. Like, no. See, this is, the valley of the dry bones, man. You don't know who the hell that you are, man. All right? Your sins have separated you from your power. You out here lost in the sauce, man. All right? But nevertheless, Just like how old girl was saying or whatever, whatnot. She's confused about these things, man. She don't know who the hell or how the hell she's supposed to be and how she's supposed to act, because why? She don't look like how her people look. So it's kind of hard for her to fit in. But if we're not keeping the customs and the laws, such as commandments of our own people, how do we really have that connection with our power, man? All right. But I'm gonna go ahead and close out with that. I just wanted to touch in on this here point, because you have a lot of our low-level ass people that make big arguments over these things and stumble over this and never really get the meat of our lessons and the things that we teaching, because they stumble over these stumbling blocks about, oh, y'all just want these Edomite women, y'all just want these white women or whatever, whatnot. I'm like, well, if you really understood about certain things, Edomites and Israelites, they don't really get along. Their spirits happen to clash. No matter how much you try to hide it or whatever, whatnot, these are people with a strong tongue. You ain't gonna be able to understand their speech. They gonna want to do some crazy shit that you don't, like, I don't understand how the fuck y'all do that, man. All right, Jake seemed to cleave with Jake, whether or not, they look exactly the same or they don't look exactly the same, man. All right, you going to understand Jake's struggle or whatever, whatnot, man. You going to just know how they move or whatever, whatnot, man. Matter of fact, I work with a cat now that before I knew what his last name was or whatever, whatnot, he just on a surface level just looked like a damn Edomite. But when you really look at him, he be swagged the fuck out in coming to work, not really supposed to be swagged out at work, because the stuff that we work around is going to just destroy your clothes. But homeboy come to work with some fluorescent color shoes on, and he's just fresh basically. Even in dressing down or whatever, whatnot, he's still fresh to death or whatever. What Edomites ain't got no, they not. Scripture say we the salt of the earth. We got flavor, man. We turn anything. We make anything and everything exciting, where Edomites, they just bland. They don't have no real sauce. They can't quite dance, have melodies, or none of that type of shit, man. So when you see some of these traits or whatever, whatnot, you're like, okay, that's the actual Jake, versus, you see these Edomites that's actually trying to act like Jake out here or whatever, whatnot, and you're like, yo, you just trying way too hard, bro. Trying way too hard. When you see these other folks out here and it just seems natural to them, Jake don't bat an eye about that, man. You see the little white boy in the hood or whatever, whatnot, he more hood than everybody else in the hood. This nigga over here tells us, yeah, what up, nigga? None of the black folks around there bat an eye, look at him, his ass twice or nothing, because it's just, how I just roll, man. And vice versa. You'll see somebody that look like a so-called black person, and they'll be like, oh, this is a so-called white boy or whatever, whatnot, just because they have black. Candace Owens. I don't know if she's a real Edomite, but they got that type of spirit or whatever, whatnot, man. All right? So I'm going to go ahead and close out with that. Lord willing, the elect was edified with this, and we kind of late in the game for you to be stumbling over these type of stumbling blocks, thinking that all of Israel is going to look like so-called black people, man. Not all Israel is going to look like so-called black people, man. All right? I just showed you a video of what it's pretty much a Jake. Her father is a so-called black man. His parents are so-called black, or his grandfather is a so-called black man or whatever, whatnot. That's a so-called black woman. Even though, see, these are the fucked up terms we have to use. She's a so-called black woman. People would say, well, she clearly look white. Well, what I really mean to say is she's a Judahite from the tribe of Judah. All right. She would be what y'all would call today a so-called Negro. But even though she don't look like a Negro on the outside, her father, her lineage go back into Negroid, descent, more or less to say, which would be the tribe of Judah. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close out with that. Lord willing, this lesson was edifying unto the elect. Until next time, I say, call halal Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders, a great millstone that taught us his truth and that root well. And salutation and much love for you, Aki, in pushing his truth and sincerity over the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. Until next time, I say, stay strong. Shalom.